Well,
And
basically all his life.
And you all have seen his tree, which almost bit the dust one winter, and it is looking
What George are you
good right
talking
now,
about?
I think.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a guy that does
Okay. Yes,
it. Okay, right here.
No, no.
Okay.
Founder.
This
The
is
guy that does
John.
the maintenance on, that's
I
helping
want
out with
to
the maintenance,
tempt
that's
your
another
last
George.
name.
Another George.
Yeah.
From
Is George here?
From Newark.
Huh?
Yes.
Is George here?
Okay.
No.
Smokey
He's
Bear and I
deceased.
are happy to be here today representing the Mountain Fire Safe Council and Wildlife Prevention Volunteers to honor Heaps Peak Arboretum on its 35th anniversary. Our volunteer groups had their genus and wildfire similar to the Arboretum's beginning following 1922 fire that devastated this area. And like those early plantings led by Mary Putnam Hay and the Arrowhead Women's Club, the RIM's first public project was replanting hundreds of trees in the Smiley Park following the 1997 mill fire. We're proud to be a prevention and restoration partners in the San Bernardino National Forest. The efforts to reforest this 30-acre site reached its highlight in the 1980s when George Haseman organized a new generation of volunteers under Rim of the World Interpretive Association, which ultimately led to the opening of the Heaps Peak Arboretum in 1984. There is no doubt that ROWIA and Arboretum volunteers provide every opportunity for the public to enjoy and learn about the National Forest and its beauties which abound on our mountaintop. Their efforts are evident everywhere here at the Arboretum. Smokey Bear, Mountain Rim Fire Safe Council, and the Wildfire Prevention Volunteers tip their hats and extend a hearty congratulations on a job well done on behalf of the forest and its wonders. Happy 35th anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
One more, sorry. Okay, on three, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And what it says, Mountain Rim Fire Safe Council would like to congratulate the volunteers of Heaps Peak Arboretum, 35 years of dedicated service to the forest and the community, June 22nd, 2019. Thank you. Okay. Another person, by the way, in case you didn't read my little badge, I'm Gloria Anderson, currently president of the Rim of the World Interpretive Association. And I won't name all the ones that are before us, but unfortunately some of the ones more recently, Bob Reed, who now lives in San Diego, and Cliff Arnquist, who lives in Arizona, were unable to be here. Okay, another person we hoped would be here was Sherry Altmeier's daughter, Heidi. And that's because if you've seen the footprint trail, the footprints of the human being are Heidi's. And anyway, is there anyone else who has been here a long time who wants to share anything with us? Anybody who knew George? Do you know?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the trail a little bit.
Yeah,
Because
good.
we were doing the trail together, George and I, and this was a long time ago, Dwayne. It was way back in the day, 25 years ago, I would imagine.
Or more.
And,
You were a mere
or more.
child.
Yeah.
Right? You were a mere child.
Absolutely. Still am. Yeah, you know, I came to the Arboretum. I was driving home from a Green Thumbs workshop up in Big Bear. We have the restoration work going on up there, and I was coming home and I saw this guy sitting in the booth, you know, with a pipe. hanging, sitting in the window. So I drove in and asked him. I said, "Is there anything I can do?" So he asked if I would do the wildflower poster. So we started working on that. And then afterwards, we started getting going with that. And he says, I want to get this trail in. Let's get going on this. So he did have a lot of difficult pushback from the agency. They weren't really 100% behind it. And it was the old ranger group was really kind of not really helping much. So Gail Vanderbeek came, and I know probably a lot of you do remember Gail. She was a new ranger in the area, and she showed up, and George had his schematic of his trail, and this was all just bare ground. And he showed Gail, what his proposition was to get this all fixed up. And she was like, "Yeah, George, go ahead. This looks great." So he was just, George, he was like, "Oh boy!" He was all excited. He got his equipment from there, and he got his hammer and his stakes, and he started staking out the trail immediately when she left. And that was when the Altmeyers came, after they got the trail all staked out and actually put the forms in. And I remember the week prior, they did this trail down here to the bathrooms, and that was drying. And then they were beginning work on this part of the trail. So I was doing the resin footprints to go in the trail. So I was working with George trying to figure out what kind of footprints we're going to have and that type of thing. And we decided on the animals that we put in there. So I cast the resin, and then the Altmeyers showed up with the trucks and started pouring, and we were trying to get those footprints into the concrete, which was a challenge because it varies. Some of the concrete's kind of hard even when it's wet. So we had like 5 or 6 people around us all the time going, no, put it here. And we're trying to hammer those things into the concrete. And it was really a wonderful day. So we finished the first pour. And I remember there's a box over here, and George and I sat on that box as the sun was going down, and just making sure nobody writes their name in the concrete. And we just sat and just reminisced and all the time in the world, and it really was nice. And then Esther came, his wife, and we sat together. So then I left, and the next day George called me with a story, and he was telling me about our work that previous day, and then he played a song for me, which was kind of unusual. He held the phone to this music he was playing. It was an African children's choir, and I was like, wow, okay. So we finished, and I hung up. He came to the Arboretum the next morning, and he actually got to walk somebody down the trail who was in a wheelchair, and that was the highlight of his. He just loved that, and I think somebody did get a picture of that. I'm not sure. And then he stayed here, and then I think it was that evening he had the heart attack. So it was right after that first pour. So it really kind of clouded up the whole process, because we were just so sick that George was in the hospital at that time. So we did finish, and we finished the footprints, and that's when the girls were over here, the Altmeyer family, and they were all standing around holding the girls' arms, and they were sticking their feet into the concrete, and it was really neat. It was a wonderful day, but we still were very sad because of George. And then he, passed away about a week later. So, but he got to see it going in, and he always says, "If I build it, they'll come." That was always his big thing. Here we are. So, and he loved the volunteers. It was a big deal to him to have, the folks coming and helping, and it was really, you could see it just made him smile. He just really appreciated all the help, and it continues, which is great. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
For sticking around.
Gina, before you leave, can you reminisce a little about the cedars up there and the dedication for George?
Oh yeah, we did, absolutely. And the trees were a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're huge. We were in the corner up here, and after George passed away, we had a memorial for him, and it was packed. Now, you were probably there. It was like the whole area was full of people, and everybody gave talks and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really moving. And those were George's cedar trees that were planted that day. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to introduce some of the people who have carried on the ROEA board for the last few years, and there are a few who are not feeling well, who can't be here, so I will also mention them. Our vice president is sorry to look worded. Ken Whitty,
Uh-huh.
who is our maintenance and operations manager, and believe me, he manages very well. Yeah. And you can see the results of his management and maintenance. Okay, our secretary is not feeling well. She's Elaine Shaw. Many people know her from Running Springs. And our treasurer is here, Barbara Pearson.
Hi everybody, I'm Barbara.
Hi. Okay, and then we have a number of board members. Christine Smiley from Running Springs, started out coming to our meetings being on the board. She was interested, and she finally came on the board. And you're expecting Carol Ginsel from Crestline to be here to clean up. She's at a meeting, and it's going to take her a while to get back here, but she promises that she will be here to help clean up.
Is she bringing Bob with her?
I guess. I don't see him here, do you? No. Okay. And Tim Wilcox, many people have seen staffing the booth and selling adventure passes during the week. And this has increased our revenues significantly. Thank you, Tim. He is also an excellent writer, so he's the proofreader for a lot of things that we put out. And then I don't have my notes here, but
We've got Corey. Is she still here? Corey had helped in the booth. And
Yes,
she's
but-
one of our volunteers,
but
yeah.
she's later.
Oh, okay.
And Sandra.
Okay, Sandra is unable to be here too. Recently she had shoulder surgery, and apparently she had a problem with her shoulder. But she ordered the food, the wonderful food that we have from Slater's. And anyway, we can thank her for getting our sustenance, and Ken for picking it up. Her husband Terry is here too.
Yes, Terry.
I guess he helped. Okay. Is there anyone else that I forgot? No, if anyone thinks of anyone, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm not speaking for the thrift shop, which I represent Rolia there where I work, but there are 10 volunteers of this organization that work out of the thrift shop. We've been there about 17 years. Bob Reed set it up. And then when he left, he was also president of the thrift shop for several years. When he moved off the mountain, I went and represented him. And with Rolia, we donate between $12,000 and $14,000 a year. So over 17 years, it's considerable. So I'd like to encourage each of you to, first of all, donate to us, because we don't buy our junk. It's your junk. And to shop with us. And also, if you like thrift shop volunteering, not everybody does. We go through a lot of crummy bags, but it is really a fun group of people to work with. So I would encourage, if there's another way you want to volunteer, that can be one, and I'm the one to talk to. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We'll be seeing Laura and the other volunteers a little bit later. And I also want to mention that Florence Schatz, who was the treasurer for many, many, many years, is unable to be with us today, but she kept the books for countless years, and now Barbara has taken over, and it's really hard to find people who will do that detail work. So we thank everyone who does that. Okay, I found my notes. Okay, I think it is now time to recognize our volunteers. And ordinarily, Elaine would help with that, but as I mentioned, she's unable to be here today. So I will do this very pleasant job. And we are going alphabetically. What we are just giving is a certificate of appreciation. And it's presented to the individual by the Rim of the World Interpretive Association with our thanks for giving your time and energy to continue to make Heaps Peak Arboretum a place for the enjoyment of present and future generations. We greatly appreciate your contributions to this mountain treasure. And it's signed by me. So the first one is Michelle Bellingham. Oh, Hori Edwards. She's here in her wonderful shirt. Thank you. Ron Espinoza.
Esposito.
Esposito.
Close.
Oh, I was given the wrong spelling. We'll get this corrected for you.
Okay, I'll get two of them then, huh?
You'll have an alias.
Formally, we'll give this to you.
Yeah, thank you.
I will, I'll get you the
Ron Espinoza. I can work that. There's a nice ring to it.
Thanks, Ron.
Didn't give you money.
Is Cindy Justice here? No? Bob Kinzel is not here. We know Laura McFarlane is here.
Well, you're folding one underneath. Careful. Thanks, Gloria.
Thank you. Okay, now we have a super couple, Ellie and Tom Mayford. He was here earlier, wasn't he?
No,
Oh.
he just got back from fishing.
Oh,
Thank you.
he went fishing.
Oh, wow. Sorry. This happens once in 35 years.
Michelle Martinez, is she here? Richard Parker.
Richard drives all the way up from Fontana at least once a week, and he's a retired conductor for the Santa Fe Railroad, but he's not here. Nope.
Is he the one that builds the birdhouses?
He's the one that builds the birdhouses.
Okay, he builds birdhouses.
Amongst other things, fencing and yeah.
Another thrift store volunteer, Daisy Salazar.
She is not here today, but we can take it to her.
And we have another super couple. Are they here? Don and Ginger Short.
Don and Ginger are retired from Rim Unified School District, and Don helps me out with taking the clothes down from the thrift store. And I know Laura is just greatly appreciative of not having all that stockpiled back there in the thrift store.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that so many people had conflicts today, but those of you who are here, we appreciate your coming, and we hope that you will continue to support us. And if there's anyone who really wants to become a volunteer, you can get a form at the booth and sign up. There are a number of different jobs that you can do according to what fits what you want to do and what you can do. So we'd be glad to discuss that with you. Is there anyone who has anything else that they want to say? Well, thank you for coming, and here's to another 35. Yay!